Morning class. I am sure you are all super excited that even though I am not here at school today, that you still get to hear my voice and learn from me, right? I'm sure you're all like jumping for joy right now. Right now on your desk, you should have a couple things in front of you. Hopefully, like you already went through the homework and you felt like you're okay with that. If you still have major questions on that, I will be back at school tomorrow. We can touch base on things. That's not a topic that's going to go away. We'll keep sort of circling back to that anyway. So you should have two things. You should have this flow chart. You should also have some graphs. So we're not really adding anything new today. I just want to talk about and give you some reminders on sort of putting together all the different concepts we've been looking at. So we have talked about at this point graphing in three different ways. We've said that we can graph in point slope form, we can graph in slope-intercept form, and we can graph in standard form. And so we started talking about the idea on Friday of how we can tell those different forms apart. And so there's this flow chart here that I gave you. This is not a requirement. This is not something you have to use. This is just something that just sort of takes those ideas that we've been looking at, and I just sort of turned it into a flow chart to sort of help you, okay? So whenever you are given an equation, so we're going to sort of go back and forth here, so hopefully you have space on your desk. Let's say I were to give you the equation 2x minus 4y equals 12. Okay. Now, some of us might look at this and just know right away what form it's in. We've done enough of them. You just recognize it. You don't have to think a whole lot about it. If that's the case, great. Go ahead and graph that. Okay, if not, you can then follow this flow chart. So the box that's in bold in the top left-hand corner is always going to be the sort of first question you want to think to yourself. Are the x and y on the same side of the equal sign? And that was the statement you all told me on Friday was the way you sort of recognize standard form. That was one of the things. So that's why we're starting here. So if we look at this equation, are the x and y on the same side of the equal sign? And the answer to that is yes. So we want to follow this yes column. Okay, so it then says, are the x and y intercepts whole numbers or fractions? So now when we're in this form and we go to find the intercepts, okay, this graph isn't telling you how to find all of them. When we go to find the intercepts, right, we're truly plugging in 0, but that makes this just sort of go away. And so we'll divide by 2, and that tells us that our x-intercept will equal 6. Now, maybe you need to make a note up here on your flow chart just in case that says, like plug in 0 and divide or whatever if you forget how to actually do it. You don't have to write that down, but just if your brain forgets. Okay, if we go to find the y-intercept, remember this negative stays with this 4. So if we divide here, 12 divided by negative 4 gives us negative 3. Now, I guess I probably should have used a better word here of integers because we can have negative or positive intercepts, but no fractions. The key is no fractions. Okay, we've talked about that concept. So we get 6 and we get negative 3, so those are not fractions. So going over here, it tells us to go ahead and find the intercepts and graph it. So we're just going to stick with these intercepts. On our x-axis, we are going to plot 6. On our y-axis, we are going to plot negative 3. And there is the graph of our line. Okay. So let's look at another one. What if we were given the equation y minus 2 equals negative 3 times x plus 4. So again, we're going to start up here and we're going to ask ourselves, when we look at this equation, are x and y on the same side of the equal sign? So we have y over here on the left-hand side of the equal sign and x over here on the right, so we're going to say no. Is the problem already solved for y? Okay, so is this in y equals mx plus b form? No. So we're going to follow the no line. Does the problem have parentheses and values filled in for point slope form? Yes, this does. Okay, so we are going to find the point and the slope, and we are going to graph this in point slope form. Okay, so with that info we learned on Friday, remember we said that the ordered pair, the coordinates inside the ordered pair, always end up being the opposite sign. Okay, so if we look at this, we're going to find our slope. Okay, our slope is what's sitting in front of the parentheses. So in this case, that is -3. And then we are going to find our point. Our point is always something that's written as x comma y. Okay, so our x value is over here. This is written as a +4, but remember we said we had to take the opposite of that. So that's going to become a -4. We have a -2 over here. That's our y value. We're going to take the opposite of that, so that becomes a +2. So our slope is -3, and we have the point -4, +2. So if we want to plot in point slope form, we are going to plot our ordered pair first. So we're going to plot the point -4, +2. Remember, it's x comma y, so we're doing our horizontal, our right and left movement first, and then our vertical movement second. Okay, we said we needed slope to be written as a fraction. Currently, this is not, so I'm going to turn this into a -3/1. Okay, so from the point I made, not from the origin, not from anywhere else, I'm going to count a rise of 3, right? And we said if that's negative, that says down 3. And then it's over 1, so we're going to go right 1. I said we'll count that twice just to make sure we don't mess up. So I'm going to go down 3, right 1 again. And there's my graph in point slope form. Next problem. Let's say we are given y equals x minus 2. So if we start over here, are x and y on the same side? No. Is the problem already solved for y and in y equals mx plus b form? We would say yes. So we are going to find m and b and then graph it in slope-intercept form. Okay, so in slope-intercept form, we can find a slope and a y-intercept. So the slope is always the coefficient, remember, it's the number in front of x. So right here, we don't see anything in front of x, which means it tells us there's really a 1 there. And our y-intercept is -2. Okay, so we're going to plot our y-intercept first. So remember, that's on the y-axis, so that's our vertical axis. I'm going to go to -2. Then from there, we are going to do our slope. Slope needs to be in fraction form. This is not currently in fraction form, so we're going to put it over 1. So from this point, I'm going to go up 1, right 1. I'm just going to count that again to make sure. And there's my line. Okay, then last problem here we're going to look at in our notes. So this is kind of a new small piece we're adding. Let's say we were asked to graph 3x plus 2y equals 8. So if we go back over here to our sheet, are x and y on the same side? Yes. Are the x and y intercepts whole numbers, or do we get fractions? So if I cover up or I plug in 0 to find my x-intercept, I'm going to get an x-intercept of 8/3. And we said we would have to approximate that, right? We said, the best thing we could really do is approximate where x or where 8/3 is as an x-intercept, and that didn't give us a perfect graph. Okay, so now that we know multiple ways to graph, instead of being stuck with just approximating this in standard form, we know enough information now to go to a new form. So instead of staying here, and several of you have already just been doing this because we've been solving for y so frequently, let's take this equation and let's solve it for y. Okay, so forget about graphing for a moment. Just think about solving for y, which we have done tons of time over the course of this year. Okay, so if we want to solve for y, we're going to move the x. So that will give us 2y equals a negative 3x plus 8. Okay, then we're going to divide by 2. This stays as a fraction, right? Because slope we want to be in fraction form. So negative 3/2x. And then 8 divided by 2 is 4. Okay, so when I got this as fractions, okay, you might have to solve for y. Once we solve it for y, now this is in slope-intercept form, and we no longer have to approximate. Okay, now when we look at this, we know that our m is negative 3/2, and our b is 4. So we're no longer going to pay attention to this equation up here, but we're going to look at its equivalent form down here. Okay, so I'm going to start at 4 because my b is 4. My slope is already written as a fraction, so I'm going to go down 3, right 2. Down 3, right 2. And that didn't require me to do any approximating at all. So now I have a perfect graph with no approximations happening, okay, simply by changing it into slope-intercept form. So here's what you are going to do for the remainder of class. As soon as this video is over, you are going to be getting 2 things, okay? You're going to be getting a sheet of paper, and you're going to be getting a set of stickers. Okay, each of these stickers are graphs. They're going to match up in one of the 3 categories. So there are 6 stickers that you're going to need to graph in standard form. Okay, notice there's 3 slope-intercept form graphs on one side and 2 slope-intercept forms on the other. And then there are 4 point-slope form problems. So you have 15 graphs, you have 15 stickers. Okay, you are going to look at the sticker and you are going to decide what form that is in. You can either use the flow chart to help you, or maybe you just recognize it by looking at it. Okay, so if you look at this and you say, okay, I recognize that this is in point slope form. Okay, so you're going to find the category of point slope form and you're going to stick that sticker underneath the graph. Okay, once you have it underneath the graph, you are then going to graph it. So in point slope form, you would be finding what your m equals and what your point equals. Notice, class, I'm telling you number 1 is in point slope form, so you better get that one at least started in the correct location. When/if you finish, you are then going to log into Canvas, and there is a Canvas quiz linked on today's homepage on Monday. So if you just look at Monday on your homepage, there's a quiz for you to click on, and that quiz is going to ask you some questions about this sheet of paper. Okay, so finish this activity, log into Canvas. This is what you need to complete for class tomorrow. So if you complete this worksheet and you complete the Canvas quiz in class, you don't have any homework. But the Canvas quiz is over this. Okay, so you don't want to rush through it because you need to do it correctly. If you don't finish it, hopefully you should be really close to finishing it. And then you'll just need to get on Canvas and finish the quiz that's associated with it. Okay, I will be back tomorrow. Good luck. You are welcome to help each other out. So if someone is stuck, ask each other some questions, help each other out. If you're really not sure on one, skip it and come back to it maybe, because you don't want to end up with like 7 here. You don't have 7 graphs. Okay, so make sure you're getting in the right categories based on that information that we just talked about with these 4. I will see you all tomorrow. Have a great rest of the day.